Welcome to the tutorial for linear equations in slope-intercept form. We know that the y-intercept from previous tutorials, it's the y-coordinate of the point where a line or a curve crosses the y-axis. We also know that it's also the point y when x equals 0. So how do we represent slope-intercept form in an equation of a line? So what it looks like is y equals mx plus b, where b equals the y-intercept and m equals slope. So let's look at two examples. One where we're given a graph right to start with, and one when we're not. So in our first example, we're given a graph. We have our lovely graph here. This purple line with 2 points, 1, 0, and 0, -1. So I can see that it's going to have positive slope. It's leaning up and obviously to the right here. But we don't know exactly what the slope is yet, so we have to calculate that using our 2 points. So let's calculate our slope. So of course we have y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, and my points are 0 minus minus 1 divided by 1 minus 0, which gives me 1 on the top, 1 on the bottom, so my slope is 1. And that does make sense because I do have a positive sloped line. Do I have a visual of my y-intercept? Yes, I do. My y-intercept is right here at 0, -1. So my y-intercept when y equals -1. So I want to write this now in my formula. So y equals mx plus b. So what do I have? I have y equals 1x, and of course plus -1. So y equals x minus 1. That's easy, you say, Miss Carla. That's easy for us to do. Okay, well let's look at something a little more complicated. What happens if we're just given points? So, this is a situation where we have somebody trying to find a hotel for a wedding reception. Very common thing that happens in people's lives. We're given the number of guests and possible costs. So we have, if there's no guests, the cost is a flat fee right off the bat of $4.25. With 25 guests, the cost for the hotel and reception room and the buffet charge is $1,800. For 50 guests, it's $3,175. For 100 guests, $5,925. Well, what does this mean? Well, let's look at a graph. And we're only in the first quadrant, obviously, because we only have people and costs, so they're positive. So for no guests, I have a flat charge of $4.25. For 25 guests, I have a fee of, let's say it's way up here, of $1,800. For 50 guests, my fee is double that. It's going to be way off my graph. And of course, for 100 guests, my fee is even further up. So I'm just going to plot these three, which aren't very accurate because my drawing is terrible. So let's just move my dot and my line. So my dot is like up here. Without graph paper, it makes it a little harder to draw. So that's a rough look at my graph. So again, visually, I can see that there is my y-intercept. But let's double check. that this is in fact my y-intercept. So first we're going to find out, we're going to put this into point-slope form of an equation, because we can use 2 points, 2 sets of points. We're going to use the first 2 to make it a little bit easier. So the first thing we need to do, find our slope. So what is our slope? Well, I have 1800 minus 25 divided by 25 minus 0, which gives me 1375 divided by 25, and that gives me 55. So my slope is 55. So now I'm going to choose the first point, 0, 425, for my equation. And we know already that y minus y1 equals m x minus x1 from point-slope form of an equation. So that means I have y minus 425 equal to 55 x minus 0, or y minus 425 equals 55x minus 55 times 0. Let's keep going here, 55x. Now of course I need to move my 425 to the right side, so I have y equals 55x, and I change the sign when I move it over, 425. So now I have actually gone from point-slope form to slope-intercept form of my equation. And look, my b does in fact equal positive 425.